Thailand, land of golden temples, land of tropical islands, land of elephants and biodiversity. The sea caresses beaches of pristine white sand. An elephant walks majestically through the forests. Towers of rock emerge from the sea like sculptures. Welcome to Thailand. Welcome to the land of smiles. This is a place where time flows to the rhythm of 3 seasons, where elephants are revered as national symbols, where golden temples and Buddha statues testify to a spirituality deeply rooted in daily life. But let's start from the beginning. Thailand stretches across the heart of Southeast Asia and is the only country in the region that was never colonized by European powers, preserving a cultural continuity that can be felt in every corner. The Land of Smiles, as it's called, not only for the hospitality of its inhabitants, but also because the Thai smile has different nuances, communicating various emotions. From joy to embarrassment, it's a silent language that speaks to the hearts of visitors. The country is a mosaic of wonders compressed into a space that represents only 0.3% of the world's land surface. Here, the forested mountains of the north give way to central plains cultivated with rice, while over 3,000 kilometers of coastline embrace tropical beaches and paradise islands. It is in these natural sanctuaries that the elephant, national symbol and sacred animal, moves majestically, witness to an extraordinary biodiversity that distinguishes this nation, which hosts about 10% of the planet's animal species. This earthly paradise, furthermore, lives to the rhythm of the monsoons, which mark time through 3 well-defined seasons. Indeed, from March to May, the hot season ignites the air. From June to October, the monsoon rains renew life, while from November to February, a cool breeze caresses the country, shaping not only the landscapes, but also the very soul of the nation. In this environment, therefore, Thailand stands as a treasure chest of biodiversity, and its richness manifests in every corner, with over 1,000 species of birds that color the skies, and 10% of the world's aquatic species populating its crystal clear waters, creating an ecosystem of rare complexity. And then there are the country's coasts, with about 700 islands emerging from the waters, including Phuket, Koh Samui, Koh Phi Phi, which are just some of the most famous pearls of this land, with their pristine white beaches and turquoise waters. Moreover, the colors of orchids fill the landscape with their delicate presence, so much so that Thailand is the world's largest exporter of these plants, with over 1,500 species native to this region. But the Thai land doesn't offer only natural spectacles. Quite the contrary. From its soul-emerged thousand-year-old traditions, like the traditional greeting, the Wai, a bow with hands joined that follows precise rules based on social status, with the height at which the hands are positioned, indicating the level of respect. Continuing, the flavors of this land are as important and balanced as its culture. In Thai kitchens, in fact, each dish perfectly balances the 5 fundamental flavors: sweet, salty, spicy, sour, and bitter, often all present in a single preparation, creating gastronomic symphonies that enchant the senses. Speaking of spirituality instead, about 95% of Thais practice Buddhism. Precisely for this reason, golden temples, Buddha statues, and religious rituals here are not simply tourist attractions, but an integral part of daily life. So much so that almost every home and business has a spirit house, a small temple where guardian spirits of the place are believed to reside, to whom incense, flowers, and food are offered daily. Finally, markets are an essential component of social life, especially floating or night markets. Indeed, they are not only places to shop, but real spaces where people eat, meet others, and immerse themselves in the most authentic local culture. Thailand, therefore, is much more than a simple country. It's an entire world, a place that continues to tell its ancient story to anyone who visits it. And precisely for this reason, let's set off to discover the most incredible and iconic places of this nation. Bangkok. The Thai capital never sleeps, with a frenetic rhythm that pulses incessantly in its warm climate. As you walk through the streets, the aroma of food spreads everywhere, and tuk-tuks zip by, creating an urban symphony that envelops you. In the distance, the Grand Palace stands imposingly against the horizon, with its golden spires capturing the rays of the tropical sun. In the temples, instead, mosaics reflect the light, while the legendary Emerald Buddha rests in silence, keeper of ancient secrets. Bangkok, however, is a living paradox. Here, monks wrapped in their saffron-colored robes cross streets full of skyscrapers, witnesses to an encounter between eras that nowhere else manifests with such intensity. Furthermore, in Ratanakosin, the ancient heart of the royal city, every alley hides a story that only waits to be rediscovered. And then there are the canals of Thonburi that still flow placidly, as when the city was known worldwide as the Venice of the East. On their waters, boats continue their daily journey, transporting goods and people, exactly as they did hundreds of years ago. Despite its race toward the future, Bangkok jealously preserves its soul in every corner, in every temple, in every smile. Ayutthaya. Hidden in the plains of central Thailand lies a city that was once not just the capital, but a true empire that dominated the entire Asian continent. Ayutthaya rivaled Paris in size and splendor, serving as a crucial crossroads between East and West. Today, instead, its temple ruins still show its former glory, now vanished. For example, there is an enigmatic Buddha face emerging from the intertwined roots of a tree, almost as if nature itself had decided to preserve this fragment of history. Or there are the massive towers of red brick that continue to point toward the sky. The ingenuity of ancient engineers transformed this place into an artificial island, embraced by 3 rivers that defined its natural boundaries. This network of canals was not only a defensive barrier, but made Ayutthaya a strategic port, where the most important trade routes of the ancient world converged. In 1767, however, after months of a ruthless siege, the Burmese army penetrated the city's defenses. What followed was total devastation, which ended one of the most influential empires that Asia had ever known. Now the ruins of Ayutthaya, recognized as a UNESCO World Heritage Site, remain motionless in time, guardians of memories of a kingdom that made the world tremble. Chiang Mai. The morning mist envelops the northern mountains, where Chiang Mai guards the legacy of the ancient Lanna Kingdom, which once dominated this region. More than 300 temples dot the urban landscape, with golden Buddhas silently watching the faithful, who come to pray day after day. When the sun rises, monks walk through the ancient streets of the city, while in the air the intense aroma of local coffee blends with the subtle scent of incense burning in the temples. With the arrival of evening instead, the night market transforms into a kaleidoscope of life and colors, where artisans work silver and silk, following techniques passed down through generations. During the Yipeng festival, furthermore, thousands of lanterns float in the night sky, carrying the wishes and hopes of those who release them toward the stars. Finally, outside the urban center, elephants move freely in natural sanctuaries created to protect them, while on the slopes of the surrounding mountains, local tribal villages preserve centuries-old customs and traditions. In this place, the air itself seems impregnated with spirituality, the same that has shaped the identity of Chiang Mai through the centuries. Phi Phi Islands. From the turquoise sea rise majestic limestone walls, revealing the unmistakable profile of the Phi Phi Islands. Mae Bay lies protected between these natural walls, while beneath the surface hides a world of corals, hosting a myriad of marine creatures. The water is so clear that it reveals secret passages between the rock formations, leading the most adventurous toward hidden lagoons and still pristine beaches, where no one has left footprints. When the sun begins its descent toward the horizon instead, its rays transform the rocky walls and paint the sky. Then there are the local fishermen who navigate with their traditional boats from one bay to another, bringing with them not only the day's catch, but also different marine legends. On land, troops of monkeys move nimbly among the palms that curve toward the white sand, creating a natural ballet that repeats every day. Continuing in the crystal clear water, groups of tropical fish swim together in perfect coordination while sea turtles move slowly among the corals. And when darkness envelops the islands, something magical happens, with the sea transforming into a display of lights, with tiny particles of plankton that shine as if the starry sky had fallen into the ocean. Khao Yai National Park. A natural treasure that has withstood the passage of time, as well as one of the oldest rainforests in Asia. Khao Yai National Park dominates the landscape with its over 2,000 square kilometers, bringing with it a mix of mountains and valleys that provide refuge to creatures that elsewhere are disappearing. Among the towering trees that touch the sky, herds of wild elephants move, following centuries-old paths, while at dawn, the call of gibbons crosses the jungle like an announcement of the beginning of the day. A few tigers still roam in this sanctuary and rarely grant themselves to human gaze. The Hao Narak waterfall instead represents the beating heart of this ecosystem, with its waters that plunge for 150 meters, dividing into 3 spectacular drops, which create a roar that resonates through the surrounding vegetation. Around this natural theater, biodiversity explodes in a triumph of life, with over 300 species of birds that have found a home among the branches of the trees. In this protected corner of the planet, animals continue to live according to ancestral rhythms, as they have done for millennia, preserved in one of the last great wild territories left in Thailand. Phuket. In the Andaman Ocean stretches the largest island of Thailand, once a center of tin trade between India and China. Usually the beaches on the western coast fill with visitors seeking the sun, while pineapple and rubber plantations extend inland, reminding us that the island's economy doesn't depend only on tourism, but has roots in centuries-old agricultural traditions. In the Old Town instead, Sino-Portuguese-style buildings testify to the influence of traders who settled here centuries ago, merging different cultures into a single identity. The Big Buddha, 45 meters tall, watches over the island from its hill, while monks recite prayers inside. Then there are the night markets, which come alive at sunset, filling the air with intense aromas of spices and street food that tell the rich local culinary tradition. When night falls, finally the island reveals its most vibrant soul, with venues in Patong and Bangla Road coming alive to the rhythm of music, colored lights, and shows, offering an entertainment experience that lasts until dawn. Phuket thus lives between modernity and tradition, continually reinventing itself without forgetting its roots. Phang Nga Bay. Limestone islands emerge from the water as in a labyrinth, creating a scenario that seems to belong to another world. The sea has shaped these rock formations for millennia, carving hidden passages that reveal themselves only when the tide recedes, revealing an underground universe that few manage to explore. James Bond Island rises impressively from the waters and is a stone monolith that has gained worldwide fame after appearing on the big screen. At Koh Phangan instead, generations of fishermen have given life to a unique community, building an entire village suspended over the water with dwellings that rest on very tall wooden poles. The families who inhabit this place pass down knowledge and fishing techniques that date back hundreds of years, keeping alive a deep bond with the sea that surrounds them. Moreover, kayaks move through hidden caves where the ceaseless work of water has created natural sculptures that seem the work of an invisible artist. Here, nature has built its personal museum, a living gallery where every rock is witness to a transformation process that continues even today before our eyes. Wat Rong Khun, or White Temple. The White Temple stands as a surreal vision in the landscape of Chiang Rai, capturing the gaze of anyone who approaches it. Its pristine structures capture and reflect sunlight, while hundreds of tiny mirrors embedded in the walls create a play of glimmers. Chelamchai Kositpipat, the visionary mind behind this work, has given life to a revolutionary concept, namely a place of worship where Buddhist tradition intertwines with contemporary elements. To access the main sanctuary, visitors must cross a bridge that overlooks a disturbing sea of hands reaching upward, symbol of the earthly sufferings that man must overcome to reach enlightenment. Inside the temple, instead, the walls show an unexpected story, with Buddhist iconography coexisting with references to pop culture in the modern world. In this sacred and provocative space, traditional religious art dialogues with the present, creating a bridge between different eras and inviting those who visit it to reflect on the profound meaning of spirituality in the contemporary world. Koh Samui. This island presents itself with a perimeter of immaculate beaches and tranquil waters that invite exploration. The interior, on the contrary, rises like a green sea of coconut palms that extend from the central hills to lap the coasts, creating a perfect contrast with the azure of the ocean. Moreover, on a rocky spur that dominates the landscape, a majestic golden statue of Buddha rises toward the sky, becoming a reference point that captures the gaze even from a great distance. Venturing into the heart of the island, the Namwang waterfalls plunge from the mountainous slopes with primordial force, and over millennia, the power of water has shaped the stone, giving life to natural basins where locals and tourists find respite from the tropical temperatures. With the falling of the sun, the night markets transform into pulsating centers of activity and exchanges, and the streets fill with the intense and spicy aromas of Thai cuisine that spread from the numerous street food stalls. Finally, along the beaches, the trembling flames of lanterns create a magical atmosphere around the restaurants by the sea, where fishermen bring their bounty every day to prepare dishes that tell the soul of the island. Damnoen Saduak Floating Market. About 100 kilometers from Bangkok, hidden in the province of Ratchaburi, is the most famous floating market in the whole country. This commercial labyrinth winds through a complex network of canals built during the 19th century to create a vital connection between the two main rivers of the region, the Mae Klong and the Tha Chin. When the first rays of sun touch the water, these canals transform into crowded communication routes, where daily life unfolds to the rhythm of flowing water. Wooden boats float lazily on the surface, so loaded with fresh goods and traditional dishes that they seem on the point of sinking. Despite the daily arrival of tourist groups from the capital, the market still preserves an authentic soul that resists the passage of time. The local women, recognizable by their characteristic conical hats, maneuver with mastery between the narrow passages of the canals, fruit of skills now passed down over time. Their boats function as tiny floating shops filled with brightly colored tropical fruits and pots where soups with intense aromas boil. This commercial practice on water represents a cultural heritage that families in the area jealously preserve, passing it down to their children. The merchants attract the attention of passers-by by shouting from their boats, negotiating enthusiastically and offering free samples of Thai coffee or noodles, thus creating that dynamic and engaging atmosphere that characterizes the traditional markets of this nation. Similan Islands. "11 islands emerge from the waters like aligned pearls, forming one of the most preserved marine paradises of Thailand. The coasts of white granite reflect the light of the tropical sun, creating a hypnotic contrast with the crystal clear waters that bathe this archipelago in the Andaman Sea. Enormous blocks of granite have transformed over millennia into submerged passages and natural arches, offering refuge to thousands of marine creatures that have found their home here. The majestic manta rays, for example, move with grace between the rock formations, while sea turtles patiently explore the expanses of coral in search of nourishment. On the islands, the beaches represent the quintessence of tropical beauty. The sand is so fine and white that it slips between fingers like stardust, while luxuriant vegetation extends to the edge of the water, creating an embrace that protects these untouched shores. Moreover, from the peak of Sail Rock, the highest point of the archipelago, the gaze can embrace the entire group of islands, surrounded by waters so clear that they allow observing the movement of fish even at considerable distance from the shore. Chiang Rai. In the northernmost point of Thailand, where three nations meet, this city guards some of the most peculiar treasures of the country. The White Temple challenges traditions with its structure, while a few kilometers away, the Blue Temple vibrates with opposite intensity. And then there is the Black Temple that completes this trilogy of places that redefines sacred art. The Aka tribe lives in the surrounding mountains, maintaining centuries-old traditions with decorated headdresses and ceremonies that follow lunar cycles. In the tea plantations, furthermore, gatherers select leaves early in the morning, continuing practices begun when the Chinese introduced this crop to the region. During the rainy season, finally, the Mekong marks the border with Laos. While merchants cross the river, weaving connections between different cultures, that time has not separated. Krabi. From the turquoise sea of Krabi emerge imposing formations of gray limestone that dominate the horizon. These majestic rocky walls have shaped a shoreline that has no equal, where hidden coves and isolated beaches wait to be discovered. Railay Beach, for example, presents itself as a corner of paradise nestled between two cliffs, and is a place reachable only by sea, since no land road leads to this marvel. Its vertical walls attract climbers from every corner of the planet, while a dense network of mangroves serves as a protective barrier for the coast, with their intertwined roots forming a complex underwater system where fry and crustaceans find shelter from predators. Then venturing into the territory, the Thong forest guards a hidden gem, which is a natural mirror of emerald-colored water, surrounded by lush tropical vegetation. As day falls, the characteristic Thai longtail boats ply these waters, heading toward the ports and loaded with the daily catch. The rays of the setting sun transform the surface of the sea into a golden expanse, while fishermen and visitors return to land after having spent hours immersed in this treasure chest of natural beauty. Wat Arun. The Temple of Dawn rises on the bank of the Chao Phraya River and is a monument that stands like a pillar of light in the panorama of Bangkok. Its imposing spires shine thanks to a mosaic of ancient porcelain fragments and seashells, where each tiny piece contains stories of sovereigns and Buddhist monks that span the centuries. When dawn breaks the darkness and the first sun rays caress the towers of the temple, the entire structure illuminates like a beacon, while its silhouette reflects on the surface of the river. Here, colossal statues of mythological guardians watch over the steep staircases that lead to the upper terraces of the temple, challenging visitors to reach the top. Once at the top, however, the gaze can embrace the entire metropolis of Bangkok, having an urban panorama that extends as far as the eye can see in all directions. Moreover, at twilight, the temple transforms again, tinting itself with golden hues and deep red, while the urban lights begin to turn on one after another. It is precisely in this sacred space, meeting point between the ancient capital of Thonburi and modern Bangkok, that one feels part of an ancient tradition that continues to live in the present. Kanchanaburi. At the point where two rivers meet rises a city that carries with it the scars of history. During World War II, in fact, over 100,000 forced laborers and prisoners of war lost their lives to build the railway that connected Thailand to Burma under Japanese rule. The famous bridge over the River Kwai, immortalized by cinema, today attracts tourists who walk the tracks suspended over the water. While in the war, cemeteries, the white tombstones, tell stories of young lives cut short. But this place also offers life beyond history. Indeed, in the surroundings, lush forests host curious monkeys and spectacular waterfalls, like those of Erawan National Park. A few hours from here, finally, those traveling toward Bangkok can also visit the famous Meklong Railway Market, where vendors move merchandise from the tracks at the passage of trains, only to reassemble the stalls immediately after in a matter of moments. In this ecosystem, nature and history intertwine, transforming a place of suffering into a space of reflection and wonder. Sukhothai. The first capital of Siam, whose name means Kingdom of Happiness, today reveals its vestiges through majestic ruins, recognized as a UNESCO World Heritage Site. The historical park develops over a vast area of 70 square kilometers, an open-air museum that testifies to the greatness of an ancient civilization. When the sun rises, its rays slowly caress dozens of ancient temples, awakening them from their secular sleep. Here we find imposing Buddha statues, some that exceed 12 meters in height, and reflect on the surface of ceremonial ponds, built following precise mathematical rules that contain cosmological meanings. Among all the monuments, Wat Sichom dominates in majesty, with inside a chamber with narrow walls in which sits a colossal Buddha, 15 meters tall, that seems to observe visitors with the same intensity of centuries ago. The ancient walls of the city, moreover, enclose what historians consider the apex of Thai artistic expression, with every structure and every effigy revealing the level of perfection reached by craftsmen and artists who worked in this capital. Wat Pho. Hidden in the heart of Bangkok is Wat Pho, a temple with a gigantic reclining Buddha that rests. This golden colossus stretches for 46 meters and seems to sleep in total tranquility while the world continues to move around him. On the massive feet of the statue, inlaid with mother-of-pearl that shines in the light, are engraved 108 symbols, which are not simple ornaments, but speak of past stories. As one moves in the temple, the delicate tinkling of bells moved by the wind breaks the almost sacred silence that envelops this space. And few know that right here, within these ancient walls, traditional Thai massage was born, a practice that today has spread throughout the world. Continuing, in the courtyards that surround the Buddha, 394 golden statues observe the continuous flow of tourists, while the towers of the complex rise with their vivid colors. Here too, small mirrors embedded in the walls capture and reflect sunlight, creating a spectacle of reflections that changes continuously during the day. Koh Tao, a green jewel that emerges from the clear waters of the Gulf of Thailand. Known as the Island of Turtles, this corner of paradise guards some of the most spectacular coral ecosystems of all Southeast Asia. In the marine depths, moray eels dance among colored coral formations, creating a hypnotic spectacle, while black-tip reef sharks move with fluid movements along the seabed. The island is also surrounded by over 25 diving sites, where underwater explorers venture through hidden caves and natural tunnels. Moreover, beginner divers find refuge in protected bays with calm and shallow waters, and veteran divers push toward places like Chum Phan Pinnacle, where ocean currents form waves of larger dimensions. With the arrival of evening, the island transforms into a haven of quiet, where existence flows to the natural rhythm of the alternating tides. In this marine sanctuary, nature reveals all its magnificence to anyone who decides to venture into this aquatic microcosm preserved by time. Phanom Rung. On the top of an extinct volcano in the province of Buriram, this 10th century Khmer temple dominates the surrounding landscape as testimony of the ancient influence of the empire. The main structure, built in laterite and sandstone, is visible after a long processional staircase that visitors walk as a symbolic journey toward Mount Kailash, home of the Hindu god Shiva. The stones, arranged without mortar, have resisted for centuries thanks to precise architectural techniques, while during the equinox, the sun crosses the 15 gates of the sanctuary, creating a phenomenon that attracts visitors from all over the world. There are also engravings on the walls that tell stories of deities and epic battles that connect this place to the great Angkor Wat in Cambodia. The restoration, completed in the 80s, has returned the temple to its ancient splendor after centuries of abandonment. Ayutthaya Marine Park. 42 islands compose one of the most extraordinary marine panoramas of all Thailand, a natural mosaic that emerges from the water. Ayutthaya, whose name translates as Golden Bowl, safeguards a territory of 100 square kilometers that includes both crystal clear waters and emerged lands. The island formations rise from the sea like works of art, sculpted by nature itself over millennia. Some of these limestone structures rise for over 400 meters above sea level, forming impressive sheer walls that protect hidden coves and beaches. In the heart of this archipelago, moreover, is found the true treasure of the park, which is Tha Lanai, an emerald-colored salt lake, nestled inside an island and surrounded by imposing rocky walls. Then there is the panoramic platform situated at the highest point of the park, from which the entire archipelago reveals itself in all its splendor. The islands emerge from the turquoise waters like the peaks of a submerged mountain chain, creating a landscape that seems to belong to another planet, while kayaks float silently among the dense coastal mangroves. Pattaya. This place has accomplished an extraordinary metamorphosis, passing from modest fishing village to coastal metropolis that never stops. In the evening, there is walking street that comes to life with multicolored luminous signs and music that fills the air and creates a crossroads where tourists meet from every corner of the planet. Beyond this frenetic face, the city also reveals a more peaceful and contemplative soul. The Sanctuary of Truth, for example, stands as a testimony of traditional craftsmanship, a monumental structure entirely made of precious teak wood, where every single element has been patiently carved to tell the fundamental principles of Oriental philosophy. A short distance from the coast, moreover, the island of Koh Larn represents an oasis of tranquility with its immaculate beaches and clear waters, offering a regenerating pause from the frenetic rhythm of the city. From the summit of the hill, finally, the imposing statue of the great Buddha silently watches over the city, resisting and observing the continuous transformations that Pattaya faces in its path toward the future. Doi Inthanon National Park. On the highest point of Thailand, where the air becomes rarefied and tropical heat gives way to unexpected coolness, rises majestically Mount Doi Inthanon. At over 2,500 meters above sea level, two temples with golden roofs emerge literally above the mantle of clouds, and are regal structures built to honor the memory of the Thai royal family. This mountain, considered sacred, presents itself wrapped in a mantle of verdant moss and dotted with species of rare orchids that prosper in the humid environment, created by the perennial mist that envelops the peaks. The Mae Ya waterfall plunges with power through a primordial forest and is an ecosystem that offers refuge to endemic bird species that cannot be observed in any other region of the Earth. Moreover, when the first rays of the sun slowly dissipate the morning mist cover, the fields cultivated by the Hmong and Karen tribes reveal themselves, like perfect geometric designs that decorate the slopes of the mountain, a living testimony of how human beings can coexist in harmony with the natural environment that surrounds them. Koh Chang Island. The second largest island in Thailand, second only to Phuket in size. Its name, which translates as Elephant Island, derives from the singular silhouette that, observed from afar, resembles a majestic pachyderm lying on the waters. Here, an impressive 85% of the island's surface remains intact and protected, preserving one of the most lush rainforests in the entire region. In the heart of the island, imposing reliefs covered with tropical vegetation reach 743 meters above sea level, creating a unique ecosystem that hosts numerous endemic species. Regarding the coast instead, the western one gathers the most frequented beaches of the island and the main tourist structures such as White Sand Beach. While moving south, Lonely Beach mainly attracts young travelers looking for a more relaxed and festive atmosphere. Finally, in the southern part of the island, the characteristic fishing village of Bang Bao maintains intact its traditional charm, with dwellings built on stilts that extend over the tranquil waters of the bay. Mae Hong Son. Surrounded by mountains in the most remote region of northern Thailand, this province shares over 483 kilometers of border with Myanmar. Fog envelops the valleys at dawn, hiding the 1,864 hairpin turns of the road that connects this isolated land to the rest of the country. The Shan population here has built temples in Burmese style, with multi-level roofs that shine when the fog dissolves. In the village of Huai Pu Keng, the long-necked Karen women maintain the tradition of wearing brass rings that elongate the neck, a practice that, however, is disappearing with the new generations. The farmers instead cultivate rice on terraces that follow the curves of the mountains, while thermal waters bubble from the earth, offering refuge during cold nights. Mae Hong Son thus exists in a delicate balance between isolation and connection, preserving traditions that elsewhere time has erased. Khao Lak National Park. In southern Thailand hides one of the Earth's oldest green lungs, a biological relic that has traversed the ages. Khao Lak occupies a territory of 739 square kilometers, dominated by the waters of the artificial Chao Lan Lake, that extends at the foot of limestone formations of 960 meters. The placid turquoise waters create a mirror where dozens of rocky peaks reflect, that emerge from the surface like stone sentinels, and that protect this natural sanctuary. The forest instead guards a treasure of biodiversity that few other places in the world can boast. When the sun rises, the melodious call of gibbons bounces among the fronds of the trees, signaling the beginning of a new day in this wonderful primordial ecosystem. Moreover, among the vegetation grows the legendary Rafflesia, known as the largest flower in the world, capable of developing corollas that exceed 1 meter in diameter, and with a characteristic odor of decomposing meat. The waters of the lake host extraordinary creatures, such as the colossal catfish, which is a freshwater predator that can exceed 2 meters in length. This forest is so ancient that it boasts an age superior to that of the Amazon, with trees that reach up to 45 meters in height. Here there are abundant rains very often. In fact, they fall for 2/3 of the year, nourishing and perpetuating an ecosystem that represents an open window on our planet's past. Pai. Among the northern mountains hides Pai, an oasis of tranquility that seems to exist in a temporal dimension all its own. The rice fields extend as far as the eye can see, like mirrors that reflect the sky, while thermal springs emerge naturally from the reddish terrain, creating pools where water smokes in the cool mountain air. The canyon cuts the landscape like a scar and is a geological monument that offers breathtaking panoramas when the sun. In the center of the town, instead, an eclectic community of local artists and travelers from all over the world meets in cafes with bohemian atmospheres, while temples built according to the Burmese architectural style testify to the historical ties with neighboring trade routes. Finally, the evening market comes to life with melodies that blend with the constant gurgling of the river that crosses the valley, creating the perfect soundtrack for this remote corner of the world. Koh Lanta. In the Andaman Sea, south of Krabi, Koh Lanta develops over 27 kilometers of coast that has preserved its authenticity and tranquility in an increasingly touristic country. The archipelago, formed mainly by two major islands, blends the natural beauty of the legendary Thai beaches with a rich and stratified cultural heritage. The western coast develops in a sequence of 9 beaches, each with unique characteristics that distinguish it from the others. While in the southern zone, the beaches remain wild and relatively deserted, or instead in the north there is a more lively atmosphere and with more tourist services. Moreover, in the coastal villages resides the community of the Moken, known as the Sea Gypsies, and they are a people that maintains intact the ancient customs linked to fishing and marine life. On the opposite coast rises the old town of Lanta, a fascinating complex of wooden dwellings built on stilts, legacy of Chinese merchants and Malay navigators who settled here in past centuries. And finally, there is the interior, which hides dense tropical vegetation with natural waterfalls, colonies of monkeys, elephant sanctuaries, and infrequently traveled paths that only wait to be explored. Erawan National Park. A park that hides one of the most extraordinary aquatic treasures of Thailand, and we are talking about the Erawan waterfalls, beating heart of the park itself. The area takes its name from Hindu mythology, where Erawan represents the sacred 3-headed elephant that transports the god across the skies. Here, the waterfalls develop through 7 distinct levels that descend from the mountain, each with unique characteristics that differentiate it from the others. The first drop is easily accessible even to less experienced visitors, offering splendid natural pools with clear waters, where tiny fish approach bathers curiously. Proceeding upward, each subsequent level becomes progressively more challenging and untouched. The 7th and final level, in fact, hidden in the heart of the densest forest, requires a 2-kilometer walk on paths that climb through the vegetation. Moreover, there are several well-maintained trails that lead visitors through the tropical forest teeming with biodiversity. Indeed, here we find the monitor lizards, which are imposing reptiles that can exceed 2 meters in length and move slowly among the rocks near the waterways. Besides these ancient predators, the park offers refuge to various species of primates, deer, and an impressive variety of over 100 species of birds. The Trang Islands. In the province of Trang, an archipelago of 47 islands emerges from the Andaman Sea, creating a scenario that seems to have come from a dream. These marine jewels, still relatively unknown to mass tourism, represent one of the last untouched sanctuaries of Thailand, where nature reigns supreme. Koh Kradan, considered one of the pearls of the archipelago, boasts an exceptional coral reef that can be explored simply by walking from the beach toward the sea, and with shallow seabeds that guard a myriad of multicolored fish. But the true hidden treasure of these islands is the legendary Emerald Cave of Koh Mook, an experience that challenges the ordinary. To discover this marvel, one must swim for 80 meters through a dark passage carved into the rock, guided only by the lights of local guides. At the end, however, a unique spectacle suddenly opens up. A secret lagoon, surrounded by imposing rocky walls 100 meters high, with at the center a small immaculate beach, illuminated only by a ray of sunlight that filters from above. Koh Libong, instead, which is the most extensive island of the archipelago, holds crucial importance for marine conservation, serving as the last Thai refuge for dugongs. These rare marine mammals feed in the vast seagrass meadows that surround the island, fighting against extinction. Khao Lak. At the point where the dense jungle meets the waters of the Andaman Sea, Khao Lak tells a powerful story of resilience and rebirth. This coast, which has known how to rise again after the devastation of the 2004 tsunami, today pulses with renewed vitality, evidenced by the annual return of sea turtles, which choose these beaches to lay their eggs. The Khao Lak Lam Ru National Park conceals within it spectacular waterfalls that plunge through a primordial forest, where at dawn the melodious call of gibbons resounds among the trees like a natural concert. Under the water's surface, instead, hides Richelieu Rock, a diving site where the majestic whale sharks, which are the largest fish on the planet, swim surrounded by swarms of tropical fish. Finally, the small coastal settlements have preserved their authentic essence, offering tourists a genuine look at the soul of southern Thailand, where the daily rhythm continues to follow the movement of the tides. Mae Kampong. Northeast of Chiang Mai, this village climbs up the mountainous slopes among bamboo forests and tea plantations. The local community has transformed its destiny when the coffee economy collapsed, reinventing itself through sustainable tourism and hospitality in traditional houses. Visitors today walk along the paths that cross the waterfalls, while the aroma of roasted coffee permeates the air. Here, the inhabitants have preserved their traditional lifestyle while embracing change, and this is witnessed by their wooden dwellings that blend perfectly with the surrounding landscape. Usually at dawn, fog envelops the village, while birdsong accompanies the daily rhythm of this place that has found balance between tradition and modernity without ever sacrificing its own identity. Wat Suthat. In the heart of Bangkok is found this temple, considered among the most important of the Thai capital. Built at the beginning of the 19th century during the reign of Rama III and completed only during the reign of Rama III, this place guards the largest bronze Buddha in the country. Pilgrims cross the monumental gates of the temple, while monks in saffron-colored robes move in silence between the halls. The artists of the time dedicated decades to the creation of the murals that cover the inner walls, telling stories of the Buddha and scenes of daily life of the time. In front of the temple, moreover, rises the iconic giant red swing used in the past for Brahmanical ceremonies, where men launched themselves to collect bags of gold. Today, visitors walk on the marble floors, while sunlight filters through the windows, creating plays of shadows on the golden Buddhas. Concluding this visual journey through Thailand, we have moved from the charm of its most suggestive landscapes, like paradise beaches and lush jungles, to the most famous icons of its cities, among golden temples and vibrant markets. We have discovered together not only places, but also curiosities that make every corner of this country fascinating and unique. We hope that the images and stories told have enriched your knowledge and stimulated the desire to personally explore the extraordinary beauty of this enchanted land.